What's up, Liron here, and today I'm super excited because I'm interviewing Patrick Ley-Greaves of Pure Watercolor. What's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. Today I have another special guest for you. I'm going to interview Patrick Ley-Greaves of Pure Watercolor. I'm sure many of you are familiar with his work, whether it's his YouTube channel here or his website and forum. He's an amazing painter, watercolor painter and artist, a fellow YouTuber, and I learned so much from him during the last, I guess, 2 years now, from his tutorials and mainly about how to keep the paint pure and make my paintings more interesting. And I think in this talk, in this interview, we got to some very interesting topics that I think will help you. And he's just a great guy. I had a lot of fun talking to him. We talked prior to the interview as well, and it ended up being just a very fun conversation. And I learned a lot from him, I think, on a personal level as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. What's up, everyone? Liron here, and today I have another special guest for you. I'm here with Patrick Ley-Greaves. Patrick's an incredible artist and creator. He's also a fellow YouTuber. I learned a lot from his Pure Watercolor channel, and he has a great website and a community. We're going to talk about many of these things soon. I also think we have very many similarities in our approaches, and so I'm really excited to have you here with me. Patrick, how are you doing?
Oh, very well, thank you. And it's good to be here to join you here, Liron, today. Very good indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, always enjoy these. So I want to start in an interesting way. The first, and we talked about it briefly. The first video I saw of you ever was actually the sketchbook tour, and I was really awestruck when I saw it. And every time you flip the page, I was like, "Whoa, that's incredible! That's amazing!" The way it captured the light and everything. And I wanted to start with asking you about that in particular. Is there something that you love in particular about painting plein air? Can you tell us more about that experience? I want to go specific in the beginning, then we're going to zoom out a bit, but I wanted to start with that.
Okay, well, for me, plein air is, firstly, it starts with just being outside. I'm not really worried about the result of the painting. That's secondary, believe it or not. Just to get out of the studio and enjoy the fresh air is paramount and the most important thing to me. Secondly, I look for composition in the scene. I look for what I'm going to paint, and I also would look for the surroundings where I'm actually going to paint. For me, I'm quite a private person. I don't like to be in a public place, too public anyway. So you're always going to have people walk past. So I kind of, end up looking for a place which is quite secluded, I suppose. So it's composition in a secluded place, a bit of shade from the light if you haven't got the necessary things to protect you with you. Yeah, so that's where I'd start. Is composition, seclusion, a little bit of seclusion, so you're not being bothered by people, because to me that time is really precious. I don't want to be bombarded with questions by people and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's the first things I look for.
Yeah, I get it. And a lot of times people forget, they keep focusing on the scene, but they forget the logistics side of it. And sometimes you paint like straight under the sun and it just dries everything. You can't get anything to look properly. And that's really that's a good point, actually. So now what I'm going to do is take us a little back in time. I want to talk about the beginning of your artistic career, and let's maybe even go back to when you were a kid. I always do that, and I like to ask about if you've shown any signs of being interested in the arts, being creative in any way as a child, and what you can tell us more about that.
Honestly, no, I didn't. I had very little ability as a child. I wasn't really interested in art. It was something that wasn't on my radar at all. Yeah, I didn't have any ability at school. I didn't leave with any qualifications in art. I didn't follow it in any way at all. I paid very little attention to it. It wasn't until leaving school that I actually showed an interest in art, and I took it from there, really. So yeah, no, nothing at all. My early days, it's more about being outside, riding my bicycle, and all those things that kids do. Painting didn't focus at all, not at all.
That's very interesting to always hear the different kind of experiences with that in particular, because there's so many different starts out there.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk a bit about the time where you really started making art again more seriously. We talked about it. It was a bit later on, actually at a similar age where I started, I think, becoming serious about it. So if you can take us back to that time and
Okay.
tell us how you got started in that.
Right. We're going back to the kind of the mid 80s. I was about 25, 26 years old, I guess. And I was living on an island in just off the southwest tip of England called the Isles of Scilly, very remote place. And
Mhm.
basically, I didn't have it. There was nothing to do in your leisure time. There was nothing other to do. You could go walking and that sort of stuff. And I needed something to occupy my time, basically. So I bought this little sketching set, and it went from there. Really, I bought some books, and I would sit there and kind of like sweat and get frustrated and tear paper. I can't do this, but eventually I produced something that was kind of acceptable to people. Said, "Wow, that's fantastic," and that's what I was looking for. I didn't realize I wanted somebody to say to me something was good that I'd done, and and it happened within painting. It was that what inspired me, I suppose, to carry on. It was that moment when somebody said to me, after lots of solitary hours sitting there going through paints and paper, having somebody actually look round and say, well, yeah, that's good. And that inspired me then to take it. And it wasn't good at the time. It was really poor. So it was kind of bolstering my ego, a little bit of a slap on the back. But yeah, that was the start of it, really. But I was back
Yeah.
27, 28 years old.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting because sometimes it only takes like one little win so that you can feel like there's a path in front of you that you can take. You see the way to improvement, and usually that first painting when you feel like you really got it. By the way, I googled Scilly today. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Following our conversation, it's just a beautiful place. I really enjoyed that. I was like, whoa, this is where. Yeah,
so peaceful. It's like going back. It's like being in England, but going back maybe 50, 60 years, maybe even more. It's lost in time, really. It's just a beautiful place.
Yeah, this is exactly what I felt when I looked at it.
Yeah.
So during those frustrating times, before you felt like you're starting to get it, were there any obvious or specific difficulties that you felt like something that challenged you in particular? Like for me, I know I have a few sticking points that I really had to deal with, and actually your work helped me a lot with them. So I'm curious about that. If there was some particular pattern or something you noticed.
Yeah, that's a good question, Liron. There was a lot of things really, but I suppose noticeably it was drawing for me. I wasn't a natural drawer, so I really struggled with that, getting the framework down. And as a beginner, I felt myself wanting to draw everything, and that was every detail. And because I didn't know, I said that this is going to be the wrong way. It was not about knowing better. Inside me, I needed to be a loose painter, but I didn't realize it at the time. And I was trying to do something that I wasn't really cut out for. And I was following this path of trying to capture every little piece of detail within a scene. And of course, it frustrated me because I couldn't do it. It wasn't natural to me, and I was suffering unnecessarily, toiling over this kind of like micro sort of like rigging in boats and sort of like brick walls. And I shouldn't be doing it to start with, but this is where experience comes. It leads on in future months and years and everything to realize that's not what you need to do necessarily. So yeah, that I would say it wasn't so much the painting. The painting was fine, so I was quite happy to splash paint about, but it was the actual motion of the drawing. Every time I started painting, I had a blank sheet of white paper in front of me. I thought, oh my, this is going to be tough. So yeah, it was definitely the drawing side of things.
And when you say the drawing, do you refer to the actual drawing skills of portraying what you see on paper, or more about the composition and knowing what to not include? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do understand. I think it was a bit of both, really. I think composition can be a very difficult thing to understand. Not everybody's got a natural eye for composition, but that should let you put you off. You know, there's ways around that. And it was the actual drawing. It was everything to do with making a mark with a pencil on a white, clean white sheet of paper. Very difficult to do in the beginning stages when you're a new artist, you're new to painting. Making that commitment in the early days to the paper, it's like very tough. It can be very difficult. So it was a bit of both, really. It was mainly, I guess, it was mainly the actual details, the drawing, the structure of the drawing, but I kind of went potluck with the composition. I just kind of drew, and then I'd kind of like, what I would do, I'd paint the painting, and then I would I would cut it down to the afterwards.
That's good.
Yeah, and that worked well for me, that technique, and I still use that technique today. And you know, it works well. So I make
if the entire drawing or painting doesn't work, you just cut out the part that you like. And and I'm sure, I don't know if you can relate, I've had it too, that when I get a drawing really well done, I'm afraid to spoil it with the painting. It's like, until I got to this point, and now who knows what will happen.
Definitely, exactly. And you've got to take that bit further off, and we're reluctant to go that extra miles. We think we're going to spoil it, but it's that little bit extra that makes the painting. And yeah, definitely.
So for me, I just wanted to share this. What I found was really a sticking point was that I used to gray out everything. I would overmix. I would get very dull colors at times, and I would notice this after a while. And the great thing is actually your channel in particular made me go the other way and try an extreme of allowing the paints to be pure and really let them do what they do best, and even a bit stronger than I thought I'd initially need. So thank you for that. That was really a major sticking point for me. And that's actually a good segue to the next topic I want to talk about. One thing I noticed, and I think this led me to an instant connection with your channel and your content and just the way you talk, was really how encouraging you are and how you truly believe anyone can do this. And I wanted to ask you if maybe you can trace back how you got to develop this perspective of being really open with the fact that anyone can do it, because some people don't have it. I have it too, so I have a bit of a familiarity blindness to it. But then I noticed that not everyone has it, you know, and the people that have it, it's actually a rarity at times. So I wanted to ask if you can trace it back or just figure out, you know, where it started.
It kind of starts with me from the fact of having no kind of structured education as a child. I kind of left school at 16, ended up stacking shelves in supermarkets and all that sort of stuff, and drifting from job to job, never really having any direction. And never really, in all honesty, you know, this isn't a sob story. I'm not trying to say, but it's kind of like being honest and being frank. That's what we're here for. And I just didn't have any belief that I could produce something worth. So when I actually managed to sort of, start to tame and calm down watercolor to do what I wanted it to do, I really believe that, and I still believe, I firmly believe, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It really isn't that difficult. What you've got to do is just let go with it. Prepare to let go. Don't worry about the materials and that sort of thing. Don't don't worry about messing up a piece of white paper. Just go for it. Lay the paint on, and have fun ultimately, and don't take it too seriously. Like I say, it goes back to the time when I generally believe that, if I could do it, I still believe that anybody can do it. I really do. But perhaps there is something, I don't want to knock down your point of view. Perhaps there is something special. I don't know, but I can't figure out what it is. If there is, I'm pretty much adamant that. I used to teach in the silly hours when I was in the silly hours working. I was a silly. I used to do painting lessons there, and we used to have people come in and they'd never painted, and we would chat and everything, and we would go through the same conversation. And generally, they always walked away with something they were really, really happy with. And I do believe that as partially to my infectious enthusiasm for the fact that they could do it. They really had to believe that they could do it. Because there's nothing that technical to it, is there? There's no magic. There is magic, but it's a kind of like a magic anybody can bring to the paper if they really put their mind to it. Because you don't have to be, you know, as I said earlier, so I'm going to ramble now, but you don't have to be a great, you don't have
That's
to be
the
a
whole
great
goal
drawer.
here.
Yeah, sorry, but you don't have to be, as I said, you know, before, but you don't necessarily have to be a great drawer. As long as you can apply paint to a paper and understand a little bit about color and value, the lights and darks for color, then you can do this. You can make some great patterns and shapes and things that look, you know, and enjoy watercolor. I'll be quiet.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing how simple it is at times. We make it complicated sometimes, and
We
it's
do.
really simple. Not necessarily easy, but it
No.
is definitely simple, the basics.
It is, yeah, and you can take it to another level. Funnily, before we were having this chat, I was looking at some paintings on Facebook today by some artists, and I was looking at them, and I was actually blown away by the quality of the work. Very controlled, but still quite loose. And I was looking at those and think, I'll never achieve that. You know, it was such a quality of work that was just beyond my. So even if you're a beginner, you might feel like you're never going to achieve a standard. I look at work and think I'm never going to achieve a standard, but that doesn't put me on, you know, it's just part of the process. It's a constant learning curve, isn't it? And you know, as long as you want it, as long as you've got the enthusiasm to paint, then you should be painting.
You know, it reminds me of an experience I often had. I remember looking at some paintings and I would wonder, how were they even done? That's
Yeah,
when you don't even know how you would approach this. And
absolutely.
then maybe a year later or 2 years later or 6 months later, I look at them and I see it. I see the matrix. Like I see behind the curtain. I know how it was done.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's
And
funny because it also loses like some of the magic that you mentioned a moment ago. It's
that's,
like, you
yeah.
know.
No, it does. And it's funny actually said, because that was part of my big learning curve when I was in, you know, with on my own trying to study. I would look at one artist. It was a bit ambitious at the time. It was Turner. I used to look at his work.
Yeah.
And I used to, because I loved his clarity of light that he got in his paintings. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, I could never do his attention to figures and details on the painting. That was beyond me. But I was more concentrated on the light. I thought if I can get the light, the rest of it will be fine. You know, I can muddle through the rest of it. But the light was just the clarity of light, and you know, just by breaking down his process, you could work out an awful lot of stuff, and it was a great way to learn. You know, fantastic way to learn.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually think that's a good segue to my next point. I did notice this about you, and I think the reason I noticed this is that I have that as well. I tend to be very self-critical of my own work, and I can really criticize it and not see, again, the magic in it like other people may be able to see. And I noticed that you're also very critical, because sometimes you show a painting and I'm like, it's amazing, and you say there's a lot of things that are wrong about it and I don't see them. So I'm sure a lot of people deal with this kind of thing of self-criticism. I wanted to ask you, what do you think the place of self-criticism in art is, and in creativity in general? You know,
I just feel that we need to be completely honest with ourselves, and there's no point. You know, if I show a painting to a friend, they're going to say it's good generally. They're not going to give me an honest appraisal.
yeah.
I can look at one of my paintings and I know whether it's good or not, or I know whether there's mistakes. If I show a painting on the internet, you might see it on YouTube or wherever. You may see it for maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. It's not a very big. It's not a great time to actually look and sort of like give it an honest critique. And I just feel that I see it. I'll have a painting. I'll finish a painting. I'll have it in front of me for a long period of time, and I get to analyze it and look at it, and I can see the failings in it. I can see dull colors. I can see poorly drawn parts of the painting and stuff like that. So I just kind of like, it's just, I think it stems from inside. I'm a very critical person of myself anyway. And I think if I'm critical about who I am and what I do, it naturally sort of spreads into my artwork, and I'm ultimately critical of my artwork. But I really think it kind of like helps me at the end of the day to be critical. And I will say one thing, and I think all artists do that. Well, I thought all artists do it, so I'm not sure. But I always find if I'm critical, it protects me from what other people might say about my work. Does that make sense? If I down it first,
Of course, yes.
then I can take what everybody else throws at it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's not the only reason. But that is partly a reason, and that's being completely straight. So you can protect yourself that way from harsh criticism from others. And you know what it's like when you put yourself on YouTube, you open yourself up, don't you, for all sorts of barrage of criticism and stuff like
And
that.
I think it's all valid, and you should accept it because you put yourself out there. That's the mentality I'm trying to develop.
Definitely. I would never, I always try and treat criticism as I would a comment that was a really positive comment towards my work. I always try and engage with it and, deal with it in that way.
This is something, it's very interesting. When I paint outside, many times people approach and they comment, or usually it's a very positive comment. Sometimes they just look and walk away. And of course, I interpret it as they hated it, but it's usually they just, they take a look and walk away. Some people aren't that artistically open or interested, but they're interested in the fact that someone's painting in the middle of the street. But in any case, all of the comments I received are positive, and I feel like I actually had to train myself to take it at face value. I also did a video about it. It's like, if someone told you it's good, just believe them. Like, you would believe them for sure if they said it's bad. So why not believe them if they say it's good? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's having that ability to deal with that in your head, isn't it? And we are all different, and we all have different levels of understanding what people think about us. And you're right. I think that's where your positivity comes across in your videos, Liron, when you're making a video on YouTube. And I see that you come across, as we've spoken, and it's such a positive thing. You don't look as if you're waiting for negativity, because you sort of like exude positivity back. It's such a nice, which is good, and that's what you need to be like. But there is people that will be watching this that perhaps want to go into plein air painting that won't be like that and won't feel like that, but they probably really want to go outside and paint, but can't bear the idea of people perhaps looking over their shoulder or being negative, because it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. It's difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, plein air painting.
It's always scary to, what people think, feeling judged. And it influences the result, to be fair. When you feel like you're judged and every move is watched, you feel like, you have to do something special or, I get it. Yeah, so I was just wondering where I'm going to go with the next question. It's an interesting topic, actually, and it all connects to the whole encouragement and really allowing people, because what pains me sometimes is that, and it actually inspired a rant video I did today on Instagram of just giving people the permission to do the thing that they're scared to do, whether it's writing that book or making paintings outside, because I see so many comments. I'm not sure, maybe you can relate to this, so many comments that say, I would never dare to paint outside, I won't dare tackling portraits. That's a real one. Like, portraits is hard. There's nothing harder than the human figure, and it always pains me to think that people stop themselves from doing something just based on that. So that's something that's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's very difficult for people to tackle that one, isn't it? Because you're always worried you're going to do somebody such an injustice. We're all very sort of like secretly vain about what we look like, and we want people to sort of make the best of us. And like you say, portraiture is such a tough one, isn't it? I've tackled it a few times, and I still shy away from it myself. 35 years of painting, it's not something I launch into freely. On my website a few years ago, we held a portrait where we did, I think it was a portrait a day for 30 days or something.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
But you could spend no more than 30 minutes on it. So it was kind of like and that really did the progression in everybody's work was enormous. Do you know what I mean? It was fantastic. But I also saw a huge progression in my work by being forced to do something. I didn't do, in all fairness, I didn't do the whole 30 days, but I did probably about 15, 16 days of it. But the actual progression was enormous just by, taking part in that challenge. So yeah, but portraiture is a tough one, and you know, I think there's so many things about it that you just kind of like worried you're going to get wrong. You're going to get somebody's nose too big, or their ears too big, or their eyes too small, or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
we're so good at recognizing faces that it's
we
just
are.
obvious. Yeah.
Mindful.
So I was going to ask about your website a little later on, but that's actually a good time to do that. I loved it, and I don't consume a lot of content myself, just generally speaking. I produce and I always work, so I don't get to, but I did visit your website a few times and I really enjoyed it, and I do want to take more part in that community. I wanted to ask you about the beginning of that and how you got started with the website.
I kind of like,
I started.
Yeah, okay. I was kind of like, I'm not a computer literate person really, but I kind of had this notion that I wanted to get my stuff on the internet and engage with people through learning. After I moved from the Scilly Isles and I stopped doing the painting lessons there, I kind of wanted to find another avenue of where I could sort of engage with people. And the internet for me was the obvious answer at that time. And I literally just created this WordPress site, but I had my followers on YouTube that I felt I could sort of offer the opportunity to come along, free membership, and just engage on the site. And there'd be a forum there. Now I basically set the website up and got it all running. And I think on the opening day when it went live, I kind of had these emails go out on YouTube, and about 10 people signed up. Okay, and they all came along, and I met this one guy on there called Martin.
Martin the star.
Martin is a star, absolutely. My website probably wouldn't still be there if it wasn't for Martin, honestly. And we got chatting, and we had some great members on there. But Martin said, look, he's a really keen sort of painter himself, learning to paint, and could he take over the kind of day-to-day running? Because obviously I work part-time as well, almost full-time during the week, so my time's limited. And could he get involved? And he did, and he took over. And now, anyway, the long and short of it is the website is pretty successful. We have a very busy forum. I make I say appearances, try and make myself sound like I'm something special. I'm not. It's kind of like I go in now and again to see what's going on and comment on a few paintings. But really, the website is just a hub for people to come and engage in art and painting. It's not about me. It's not or anything. It's not about what I do necessarily. It's just a free forum where people can come, follow challenges that Martin, he'll chooses pictures each week where people can paint and get involved, and then they can upload their paintings to the forum, and they can members can then sort of critique on each other's work and encourage each other. And that is basically what it is, at the end of the day. Obviously, I have videos on there and stuff like that people can watch if they want to. But it's quite a simple setup, really. There's no, it's completely free. I've never wanted I wanted a place where people could come and, not feel they had to spend money if they didn't want to. And, they can't spend money even if they wanted to. It's completely free. And the forum there and everything. So, that's essentially what it is, Liron. It's just a place where people come and chat about watercolor.
And I think these communities are great, especially for these kind of topics that are very niche. It's very specific, and I love that. And also going back to the challenges that you talked about, I think it's really a good way of, you never know, but when you start doing the same thing for 30 days, it actually improves you. I think it compounds the effect. So I really think that's a great service that the website does. And,
it really does. And like I said, we've got members that have been there for many years now. And we've got a hardcore of people that come in and they chat. And we've got a forum there, so a chat room where people can chat live to each other and exchange ideas and stuff, which is great, And it's a lovely community. And, I'm very grateful to them all for taking part. It's a great place to be. If you're
when I joined, I got so many nice messages there. Definitely. And I'm going to link to everything in the description box also, and I'm going to put everything here. We're going to talk about some other things soon. And I wanted to ask you about your start on YouTube and how you kind of got that ball rolling and, A lot of
Right.
people, I think, want to present their art and they wonder how to do it, but not necessarily from that angle. Just whatever you want about your YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
Okay. Well, like I said, I kind of started with YouTube in its very early days, and then I took a break. But I'll just tell you how I started. I kind of like was in my studio in the Scilly Isles, and I was interested in what's going on out there. And because I was so isolated, I wasn't really integrating with other artists.
Hmm.
And I kind of knew about YouTube. I thought, well, I'll make a YouTube video. So I had an old webcam which I connected above my, I had a few old sticks sticking out from the wall and stuff like this, bamboo canes. And I connected this webcam up and above me. So the quality of that first video is not that great, but still gets a lot of views, strangely enough. And yeah,
It really is successful. We talked about it. Sky's video went viral.
Yeah, weird, really. And anyway, I connected, and I just kind of made this video, and I made a few. I think made 3 or 4, and they're all pretty busy on YouTube. And but then I kind of took some time away from YouTube. I only made about 3 or 4 videos. I think it was in the early days. We're talking about 2008, 2009 here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I think I'm not sure when YouTube started. Maybe 2001.
I think no, much later actually.
Was it?
Maybe 2006 or 2008.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was early
It was
days.
just in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. So had I kept it going, I would have probably been a YouTuber by now.
Who knows?
So just took a break, but that was it. And I just wanted to have a way, because I was living in an isolated place. We're talking, on the island, especially in the winter months. We had 80 people that lived on the island, 80, 90 people, and no other artists. And you're kind of like on your own. And I just wanted this way of having interaction with other people that wanted to paint. So I thought, well, I'll make YouTube videos, and that was how it was really. And started from that simple point.
That's amazing. And I'm sure there's a lot of I sense the whole willingness to share and to encourage others. That's the one thing that's a very strong driving force. I really feel it about myself too, and I can see it in your, it's just, and a lot of it is, for me, it's selfish. I really feel good about encouraging others. So if that's the thing that makes me feel good, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely, Liron. It is a good feel, and especially when you sit somebody say, and I get some lovely messages on YouTube from people to say, you've kind of like given me I gave up watercolor. I was frustrated, but watching your videos has encouraged me again to partake in watercolor, and that is a lovely feeling, and it's good for me, And I just know that if people actually sort of take the opportunity to get back into it or to take it up for the first time, the amount of pleasure they're going to get in it, it's a fantastic hobby to do, interest. So yeah, totally supportive of people who want to start, definitely.
And talking about your videos, so you mention a lot and you share a lot about cycling and trips to the countryside and travel in general. Were you always kind of a traveler or something that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, well, from a young age.
Off topic, yeah.
No, that's okay. From an early age, we moved around. We were never in one place very long as children. So I kind of think it was born into me, really. You grew up with moving around and different locations and stuff. So as I got to sort of 16 and I made my own way in the world, and I kind of still had that feeling inside me. I always wanted to be moving on somewhere. So that's really pretty much carried on, hasn't really changed. Now I'm obviously more settled now with my partner here, and very happy, but I'm not sort of 20 anymore. I'm kind of 56, and you've got to settle down at some point, and and kind of take responsibility. But now I kind of like to get my kicks that way. I've got a bicycle and I've got a camper van which I travel in regularly, and I like to take trips abroad, and I went to Vietnam last year and stuff like that, and paint, and that's where I and that to me is just so rewarding, to be somewhere else and doing the thing I love, which is painting. It's a lovely feeling.
And I watched some of these videos and I really love them. And I wanted to ask you, so we talked a bit about this, like when you're in new places, there's always this kind of magic. It feels foreign, and it can provide more inspiration. I'm sure that feeds your creativity. So I wanted to ask, like, what inspires you to paint? What kind of scenes you like the most? I know seascapes, we talked about it, but you can elaborate on that and also connect it to the travels.
Yeah, well, you hit on it. Firstly, my biggest love is painting the sea. If I could just paint rocks, waves crashing over rocks all day long and get away with it, I'd probably just
Mm,
do that. But trouble that
I
will bore
love
me
these
after a
paintings.
while. Yeah, the sea is just like endless, isn't it? It's got so much movement. It's got so much beauty that I just love the ocean. Um, but I love it. When I go abroad, I love looking at different sorts. Because we, as our, what it's like where you are. You end up drawing and studying the architecture in your town or city.
Mhm.
I do that in Worcester, and I draw it a lot and paint it. And after a while, you kind of just hunger for something different. So when you go to a different location, especially Thailand, the temples, for instance,
Mhm.
were just so ornate and so, but also challenging in the same way because there were things I weren't familiar with. So they
Mhm.
presented all sorts of difficulties that you had to sort of then grapple with. Um, probably in what was a different climate. It was very hot, and you were
Mhm.
learning to paint these different ways. But it's saying that they were great. You had sort of you were being bitten by mosquitoes and God knows what else. But it was a fantastic process, and so it is. It's all about the architecture for me. When we can't look at the sea. I love another thing. I love is harbors. Anything
Mm.
harbors and boats, sailing boats, and things like that. I love reflections. Um, uh, that sort of stuff. But then saying that, I'm moving more towards landscapes these days. I love landscapes too. I love the greenery and trees and
Mm.
anything really. The one thing I stay away from is horses.
That's very
they're,
specific.
they're a big thing. I kind of like think, don't ask me to paint a horse.
The legs just don't work. They
No,
look
they don't work
awkward,
for
right?
me.
That's the hardest part. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
I need to. That's another thing I need to work on. Perhaps I'll do that and see how I get on. Maybe I'll do a 30-day challenge on painting horses. But
Yeah, that would be a good one.
yeah, it would be. But the legs are a killer.
Yeah. I wanted to mention also that the Cornwall and all of these areas that you really inspired me. Sometimes I have days where I'm like, all I want to paint is just a dry dock, and I have to do that, and that's the only thing I can do. So yeah, so thank you for that. And sometimes I want. There's another thing I noticed, that when there's this way of creation that's, it's like the first time you use the medium, you know nothing technically speaking,
Yeah.
but you know much more than someone who already has a biased view of the medium, just because you gain, sometimes learning is more about unlearning.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when you have this childlike mind state, you can produce some great things. And I noticed that when you look at scenes you're not used to, or when you look at a subject that really inspires you, it kind of brings that side out of you. I'm not sure if you can relate to this.
Yeah, I think I can actually. I think what I would say to that is that when I look at a subject that really inspires me, but I don't quite know how to tackle it, maybe it's something that I haven't painted before, I simplify it. I kind
Mm.
of like it's my sort of safety net really, and I will just sort of like break it down initially to its major shapes and colors and things and values, and simplify it. And I that's the only way that I can work when I get, because as I've said before, I'm not a great drawer. I'm not, and I'm not somebody that can sit there and do fantastic detailed pencil drawings. So to create a framework is really difficult for me. So if I see something that's really taxing and difficult, I will
Mhm.
just break it down, and I can't. I guess I reach for a bigger brush. Do you know what I mean?
That's a good trick.
Yeah, that's lucky I got there, and that's what I do. I just kind of like block things in, and is that the answer you're after on that?
Yeah,
You
that's a
know,
good answer.
yeah, I just keep it really, really simple.
Yeah.
I don't overcomplicate things. Just don't
Mhm.
overcomplicate it. I remember when I made a lot of videos, I kept using the word simple, and it drove people mad. They said, just think of a different word for one. You know what I mean? But that's all I can think of. Keep it simple, because I understand simple. Do you know, it works
Yeah.
for me,
You
you
can
know.
try dumb it down. Tell them
Yeah,
to dumb it down. That's the only other option. Yeah.
yeah,
For me, I feel like when I do something new, I don't even think about these things, because for some reason a natural resource in my brain just opens up, and I can just try and portray it, and usually it's more spontaneous and more interesting than if I would do something I'm very familiar with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I kind of, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's like, I can see where you're coming from with that. Definitely. I think I tend to go into that sort of panic mode more. You're a calmer individual.
Different approaches.
Yeah, I tend to sort of like, it's kind of like, oh my God, you know, I'm faced with something different.
Yeah.
I've got to respond to this. I've put myself in this position. But so I ended up simplifying. That's how I deal with it. And then I build on it as my confidence increases and how I get to understand it, and I'll sort of like embellish it and move on with it future days. So I don't expect too much from myself. That's what I always say to myself, really.
You don't
I don't expect too much from myself. I keep my expectations low, and then I'm not disappointed when, you know what I mean? So and I think that's not a bad way to be, really. I kind of work myself up to something.
Some days you just have to, the bar is, I'm going to paint. That's like the bar.
Absolutely.
And if you set it higher, then, especially when you're having like an artist block, or maybe you're feeling uninspired, that's a good trick. Just lower expectations. Boom, the result is much better.
Absolutely.
I actually wanted to talk to you about drawing. That's an interesting topic to me, because I do come from the background of drawing, and then I started taking up watercolor about 3 years ago. But I've been drawing my entire life. And in my interview with Steve, actually, we talked about how he stressed the importance of drawing. And I do know that your approach and outlook on this is a bit different in terms of the importance that you give to drawing. And I wanted to ask you about that. How do you think how important it is to know how to draw in order to paint properly?
Well, I watched your interview with Steve, and it was fascinating, and he's a lovely guy, and he's such a talented artist. So anything I say now is not contradicting what he says. It's just a different view.
Everyone's different, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. But a fantastic artist, and love his work. And but when you're not naturally good at something, it shouldn't exclude you from doing something else. And if I'd had to study drawing as to a level, you know, keep studying it, then it probably would have put me off from painting from day one. I probably wouldn't have progressed any further, rightly or wrongly, and people have their ideas about that. But so I kind of like always took the shortcuts with drawing. I always really all I want to do is get to the painting stage, and I still do, unfortunately. I wish I could be different, but I'm not, and that's who I am, and that's what I live with. So for me, I understand I can draw. Obviously, when I have to, when I'm really prepared to apply my brain to it, I can draw, and I can connect shapes and make something pretty. I don't know how accurate it would be to whatever it was, but I could create a similar looking shape to what I wanted to portray. So yeah, I just think that if you're not a natural drawer, you shouldn't get too hung up on it. You should feel free to just paint and create, because you could do it. Because at the moment there's a big movement on the internet with
the 30 by 30 that you just paint.
Paint your brush, don't you? And some fantastic works have been created with just a few brush strokes, you know. So that's all you can do.
I was just reminded of that too. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, if that's all you can do and that's all you choose to do, then that's fantastic. That gives you access to painting without the stress of drawing. Because I know that there's lots of people that can't draw and don't wish to draw, but that doesn't mean watercolor's not for them. It just means that, you know, they're going to tackle it a different way. So yeah, I'm not a great drawer. I can draw if I really put my mind to it, but it's not something I heavily promote.
Yeah.
Just for what I do, I'm not. But you know, that doesn't mean that it's not important to a lot of people. I can understand how important it is to many people. You know, because some people just love it, don't they? You know, you do, for instance, you love the idea of drawing and the detail and the way of making that mark on paper.
So a few things come to mind, actually. It's very interesting because on the one hand, it really depends on my mood. Some days I feel like if I don't get a very detailed drawing, my painting is going to lack. But then on the other hand, some days I look at others that do very simple drawings. Like Tim Wilmot is a good example of him. I think we also mentioned him. He's great at drawing, but he never goes into too many details. He just puts it out there. That's a quality I notice about your art as well, and it always makes me jealous. And then some days I'm like, I'm going to do the minimum so that I can come back with the brush and let that do the thing, because I feel like the drawing constrains me and my thoughts as well.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, because I would say that's very interesting. Tim Wilmot's paintings, again, fantastic works and just quite breathtaking. But I would say with the drawing that when I can apply myself to do a detailed drawing, I get a higher success rate. I get a lower success rate of successful paintings when I'm really not in the drawing mood, and I create a very sketchy. And I think that's stemming from my attitude to I probably shouldn't be painting on that day. I'm not saying I'm not saying I do detailed drawings every time, but there is a balance between the two.
Yeah.
You know, there's a fine balance. You need to have a framework. You need to have an understanding of where you're going. Watercolor is all about planning, really. You have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're going to end up with a bit of a mess, aren't you? At the end of the so there is a fine balance. Mine isn't to go detailed every time, but it's kind of it's also I need to have a framework to work in. Whether I did a couple of paintings recently. I took a trip down to the south coast in my camper van, and I did some paintings of a place called Key Haven, and I did them with a brush, and I loved the paintings. They were really, really my favourites. So that's something I want to get more into, actually, is the brush, making marks with brushes and then painting. So that's, something I want to evolve.
It's very interesting that you raised that point, because I wanted to say we can also look at it the other way. I had so much experience in drawing, and not to say I'm the best, and there's a lot of things that still baffle me, like the human figure and portraits, as we mentioned. But I was always, I had a knack for drawing. And when I started painting, the brush, the actual handling the paint and the brush was super challenging, to the point where I couldn't even fill an area accurately. I wouldn't know how to do it.
Right.
So, and that actually supports the point that says that drawing isn't everything, because on the other hand, when you start drawing with the brush, it's a completely new skill set. It's nothing like it.
No, but it's a lovely feeling when you don't. So I find when I'm drawing with a pencil, I find the drag of the pencil on the paper a bit irritating.
Yeah.
But a brush, it glides over, and it's silky and it's nice, and you get this freedom from the minute you start working. So for me, that I just love that. It's just kind of like that process is much nicer for me. But how can I sit there and say drawing is not important when you have all these people that do these great studies of the human figure and all those things? And so it is such an important skill to learn. It depends which way you want to go and what you want to paint, ultimately. And
who depends on your final product and what you enjoy, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's what it's all about, really. Just what you want to achieve.
And talking about the final product, I wanted to talk about your art. That's a bit of a stretch, but I try to make that connection. I feel like I love your style and the way you keep the paint pure, and the simplicity in the drawing. There's a lot of magic in that, and it does seem like you have a distinct style. And when people tell me that I have a distinct style, I hate it, because I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't tell because I'm too close to it. So I don't know if that's the same for you, but I do want to ask you if you have advice for like how you developed your own style, and maybe how others can too, because some people obsess about having my own style. My advice is just go to the basics, practice the basics, keep practicing them. It will carve itself out. I wanted to get your perspective on it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you should get too hung up on a style. I think a style probably ends up limiting you anyway. The minute you commit to a style, I think I constantly try and emulate other artists in my work, incorporate my style, I suppose, to a certain degree. I try to bring in other artists where they use light and stuff like that, but try and fit it into my style, which doesn't always work. I would say my style is quite a lazy style. You know, that I want a better word than lazy, but it's quite a lazy style of painting, and I talk about that on my website and on my videos. Quite often I'll mention it, that is, I'm a lazy painter. I am. Now that can sometimes work really well in your favor. You know, that can, I take shortcuts where I can and all those sorts of things, but it does end up generally in a nice loose style.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that I ever consciously tried to manufacture a style. I just kind of worked with what I got. And, I would say that, we are different, you and I, in the way we paint, but it's not that different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you agree? Or would you say that?
Yeah.
Styles?
I think we're actually quite similar in many ways.
Yeah, we are. I know you might not want to think that, that's fine. But I just think there is quite a similarity in our styles. And we probably, if you actually look at it across the whole board on the internet, we probably touch on many styles, on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at some people's work and I think, yeah, that's very individual. That really is definitely, that's you. Like a bit like we listen to a singer, you say, well, I know who that is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wonder if they put my painting up with 20 other artists, they could say that's Patrick Ley-Greaves. I don't know if they could. I still think I'm sort of probably verging over to other people's work at times. That's the way I see it. Maybe other people see it differently. That's not, viewing it. But I still don't get hung up on style now. I am painting what I'm painting, but it could all change next week. Do you know what I mean? That's why it could just, to me, what painting is completely organic. There's nothing about it that's going to stay the same. I'm not going to stay the same. It could completely change. I might even change the medium. Who knows? Anything could happen.
What I find, I agree with that. What I find is that it's really a matter of just being in the moment when you create, just looking at what you want to paint, and if you're in the moment, then what automatically I find happens is, and it's not completely 100% accurate that if you're in the moment it'll happen, because sometimes I'm so excited in the moment and I get a punch in the face by watercolor. But sometimes when you're in the moment, it's just the natural way of your own natural way of viewing the world just kicks in, and it's you, and that it's more of a matter of letting go than trying to direct something,
Definitely. And I can tell when I'm watching a YouTube video made by somebody, like yourself or anybody else, I can generally tell when that person that's narrating the video is in the moment, because I can tell by they're confident about what they're doing. They become more sort of like positive and sort of like, and I'm the same. When if I'm doing a video and I know it's going well and I'm narrating as I'm painting, my spirits get lifted because I think this is going well. I love it in this. This is really well. I can't go wrong. I'm thinking to myself, whatever I do with this brush, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's seldom, doesn't happen very often, but that moment, it's hitting that sweet spot, and when you get it, it's lovely, and you just got to sort of make the most of it.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow it can be a completely different ball game. It can all go sadly wrong.
I have the exact same experience. It's like when you get this moment, you hold on to it and you enjoy it, and you're just in it. I find actually that narrating, not necessarily for a video, but explaining to someone what I'm doing brings me more into the process. And I love that. Like I did a video called My Best Painting So Far. And I showed this painting of a scene from, I don't remember the place, I think it was Croatia. And I was actually painting this while explaining to my girlfriend every single move of what I'm doing. And she asks a lot of questions. She was very interested in it. And I explained to her the options. I'm weighing my options. I could go at it and just do the skies and stop. Or I could let it all blend together. And then in the next layer to make the separation. And it makes you think. It actually makes you,
You learn a lot by doing that, don't you? It improves us I think YouTube actually improved my painting a lot.
I'm sure.
To do the narration and think so much about what you're doing as you're talking to people. And I've done a few live streams recently, well, not recently, but over the last 6 months, I've done a few live streams, and that really did crank up the pressure. I found that
that's
quite hard.
I still wasn't courageous enough to do it. Me.
No, you wouldn't have a problem, Liron.
But you enjoyed them. But you enjoyed the live.
I did, but it was like, pressure that I hadn't felt before, because you're doing it in front of everybody. Yeah, so it wasn't that easy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
People seem to enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have a small fun section. I'm just gonna ask you a few fun questions, and then we'll move towards, I think, wrapping it up.
Okay.
I don't want to take too much of your time, and I think we got to some interesting topics. So I want to ask you, like, I always ask this: what's your favorite color and least favorite color? No one has a least favorite color for some reason. I can name a few that I hate, but others can't seem to.
Yeah, yellow.
Yeah, that's what your least favorite. That's
my least favorite. It's only because I don't know what to do with it. I struggle with it, and I'm trying to do things with it. It's a colour I avoid like the plague, but it's
easily contaminated.
Yeah, sorry, say again.
Easily contaminated. You just loses its vibrancy so easily.
It gets to green, doesn't it? It gets some blue in it, and I just struggle with yellow. But yeah, it's
favorite.
Our favorite is probably, that's a good question.
I hope you'll say the one I'm thinking about.
Okay.
No pressure though.
Let me think about this for a second. I can't think till you can. My favorite color, probably blue.
Yeah. Which one?
Yeah. Was it?
Which one?
Oh,
if you have one, I don't know.
Cerulean or cobalt?
I got it. I wanted you to say the cerulean. I like the way you say it with your accent.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah, that predictable.
That's fine. I watched a lot of your videos, so it makes sense.
It's a go-to blue cerulean.
Yeah.
Like, works well.
I rarely use it, and I should. I always love the way it looks, but I just never got it. I'll go get one tomorrow, actually. I decided right now. So, yes, and I wanted to ask you also on purewatercolor.com, you mentioned how you cook a lot, and you used to cook. So I wanted to ask you favorite dishes to cook.
I like anything to do with pasta. Love pasta. I love barbecuing. That's my thing in the garden. We've only got a small garden here, but I just love to get some coals going and get some meat on the barbecue and cook something, glass of wine and a bit of cooking. Great. So that's kind of my thing. But in the winter, I like to do sort of stews and all those sorts of things, normal stuff that families have. So just play around, really. Enjoy cooking.
That's great. So the last question is, I wanted to ask, what's going on with you right now? What are you working on and you want people to check out? That's like your time to, if you want to plug something. I know you're working on your second Udemy course, and I've watched some of the first one. It's incredible. So I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm working on. I want to make more courses. The first Udemy course has been quite successful. And I just want to be honest with you. I don't really have any specific things I work. I just want to paint, really, and get better at what I do. I want to get outside more, and I want to cycle more and paint on the way. I want to camp more and stuff like that, do some painting on camping. Ambition-wise, I'm not an ambitious person. I just really want to sort of enjoy life. I want to travel more and involve more painting in my travels and stuff like that. But I'll just take what life gives me, really. And, it will be what it will be. But, I'm just really, really happy painting and doing what I'm doing, Liron. I wish I could have a better answer for you.
But, that's a perfect answer. Yeah. That's a perfect answer, and I highly recommend anyone to check out your courses. I learned so much from you, especially if anyone watching is like me. I have these ways that I try to correct over time, and I think being exposed to someone who does things a little differently is really helpful. And I also think on the drawing front, if that's something of a challenge to someone, then definitely I would recommend, because you have this way of simplifying it that I think works really well and makes it less important and more, you can produce more with the paint itself. So I would really encourage everyone to go there and visit it. I will put links to everything in the description box. I also it's funny, when I looked at you wanted to say something?
No, it's fine. No.
Okay. When I looked at the conversation we had, we did like a chat before the interview, and it was almost 3 hours long. It was crazy. We just dove deep into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, everybody will tell you when I start talking, I've had to explain myself. So I can ramble, but then I kind of go off this direction, and I have to be told repeatedly at work to be quiet. So, yeah, well, actually, people just generally walk away when I'm talking. So,
I think that's the best kinds of conversations, and I'm really happy to have interviewed you, and it has been a real pleasure. And I want to thank you so much for your time and for doing this.
You're welcome, Liron. It's been a pleasure. Absolute
Thank
pleasure.
you so much, and I learned so much from you, really. So thank you for that as well. And I'm sure many of my viewers, because it's really a very tightly knit community that I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to expect this video, like to see both of us. I think it's a really, really good thing. So this is it. I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you again. And thank you anyone who's listening and who's watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. I will put links to everything in the description box. To your YouTube channel, there's also going to be a link in the end of this video, and to your Udemy courses, and also to the website and everything. And thank you so much. And I will see you again in another video, and you will see Patrick again in another vid. We'll talk soon. So take care. So this is it. I really hope you enjoyed this interview. This has been great fun for me too. Don't forget to check out, I will put in the description box under the video links to his YouTube channel and to his website. There's also going to be an annotation in the end of the video, and also to his Udemy courses. I really recommend you check it out. I will put everything in the description box below. Again, it really helped me take my paintings to the next level, and I'm still constantly learning from Patrick's work. And yeah, this is it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post a lot of videos every week, like 4 new videos on different topics, ranging from art and creativity and business, and the business around art, and reviewing different paints. Also, be sure to check out my podcast. I will put links to everything below if you just are interested in the talk, okay? If you don't necessarily look for lessons and things like this, I do upload a lot of tutorials step by step, showing you everything and narrating every step I'm taking. So there's a lot of value here. Don't forget to subscribe if you still haven't, and also hit the bell button to receive notifications. I really want to thank you for your time and for watching, and for your kind comments and encouragement. It means a lot to me, and it's what helps me move forward and keep working hard here on YouTube and on different channels where I post content regularly. So again, thank you so much, and I will see you again in another vid real soon.